Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Community Connection. We missed you last week. I hope you missed us. But we were all enjoying family and food and being grateful and thankful. I don't know about you, Claudia, but I had a Hallmark kind of Thanksgiving.
Well, good for you.
Yeah, my wife and I didn't have to do a thing. Our kids did it all, hosted us, cooked, told us to sit down and relax. Had great conversation with my kids.
Everybody was there?
Everybody was there.
That's awesome.
It was awesome. Yeah.
Awesome.
How about you?
We had a very calm. We only had 9 people at the table, the smallest number since 1999.
Oh.
But it was good. Everybody chipped in and helped, and
Yeah.
we had a great time. The grandkids were super cute. And
So we're finally reaching that age where, right, Grandma and Grandpa can sit in the recliner and let everybody else do the work, and they'll come and say, "Tell us those old stories again."
we're not quite there. Bart's not quite there. I'm there, but Bart's not quite there.
So, anyway, we've got a really cool guest. We always have cool guests,
Yes.
right? But I'm anxious to hear her perspective on our work we do in Lynchburg. She's been in this area a whole lot longer than you and I combined, right? I've been here 13 years. You've been here, what, 6, 7? Our next
Almost
guest,
8.
yeah, our guest has been here her entire life. So,
Not here.
well, in Lynchburg
Right.
here.
Yes.
Yes. So why don't you introduce her?
So meeting Dr. TR Tweety is not going to be new for many people because she's done a lot of these kind of interviews. And she was saying I was a ruthless interviewer, which is ridiculous because I'm not. I told her we were one of the nicer people she'd probably ever meet, and she didn't say that I was, so I don't know about that. But we're really excited for a couple of reasons. One, because she's on our staff now, and that is really cool. But also because her story and her experience and ties very well into Vision 30. And so I'm going to let her start by telling us a little bit about your background, where'd you grow up, and why Vision 30 resonates with you.
Mm-hmm. Good morning, everyone. I am TR Tweety, and Dr. TR, as I kind of nickname myself. And I am excited to be here at Patrick Henry, but more so, I have been in Lynchburg all my life, with the exception of being in the military.
Oh.
So was in the military 3 years and came back home, and I've been here ever since. So went into the military, the Navy, after high school.
Wow.
And graduated from Glass. And so just lived here, had children, got married, and went to school, college here. And so I just grew up in all of the neighborhoods from a child on. And so I love Lynchburg. I've always loved Lynchburg. And that's why I knew staying here with family was the right choice, the right decision. And so I've spent almost 30 years now. It seems crazy to say I've been around that long as an adult. But I spent almost 30 years now just working, being in volunteer service. I always say I don't think I chose it. It chose me. We don't start off becoming a public servant, and it's just the things you do. You just do things for your children. You do things for neighbors. You do things for community organizations you're in.
Was that part of your family ethic and roots? Yeah.
It was. My parents, I'm an only child, so some people say that's a curse and a blessing, but I counted it a blessing. I had a great family. My mom and dad just worked hard, took care of me. We had a larger family, extended family that always gathered, always supported. I was blessed not to see a negative moment in my family, other than grief, other than when family members pass on. And occasionally you would hear rumblings as a little kid of something going on, but they were very protective of us, my cousins and others in our family, that we didn't know. And so as we got older, we might have learned things about a breakup here and there of a family or a relative, but it wasn't everyday knowledge. And so as I grew older, I said that was a blessing, and we didn't know it. I learned a little bit more about the family growing up and becoming an adult. And so my parents always went to church. I always had to get up and go to church. I don't care what I did the Saturday night before. You were going to be in Sunday school. And they also picked up people along the way. They would pick up people. They would take them to church. If they needed a grocery store stop, they would do that. They would pick up families. We had a van, like a big, conversion van with seats in the back, I guess. And so I just remember being in there with a family of 3 or 4 children and their parents, taking them to church. That was my mom and dad. And so that was instilled in me of helping in that kind of way. But that was just the more hands-on approach because a family was doing great. They just didn't have a car. So my dad, anytime anyone needed a ride, they would do that. And I saw my parents work hard. My dad was a welder at a local company. My mom worked at, he worked at Aerofin. So I'll throw that out there. He worked at Aerofin for almost 40 years, becoming a supervisor. And my mom worked on the factory line at Chapstick, what was Chapstick. And so I just saw them go to work every day. I saw my dad put chains when we used to get 6 feet of snow here. Early in the morning, it was dark. He would put chains on the tires to get my mom to work, to take me to my grandmother's, who was always my daycare provider. And that was just work ethic you can't replace. It just it sticks in your head. And so having the work ethic, understanding how to deal with people, building relationships, it started back then.
And I'm interested. We grew up in very similar situations as far as how my parents modeled that. But why would somebody who had that kind of upbringing want to get involved in all the messy stuff that you've been involved in over the years when you could have escaped it? I mean, you were on a trajectory to get away from messy.
Right.
Why
step right into
it?
Children make you do the darndest things. So it was really my first foray into kind of serving the community was when I worked through my children's Little League football organization. I wanted my kids to cheer and to play football on one side of town. My spouse at the time wanted them to cheer on the other side of the town. And so I said, but it's easier. We live right across the street. It's no brainer. But in going in another ward, participating in team sports there, I just started, several of us, just started seeing how what's the difference between team participation, parent participation, volunteer participation, organization of sports and teams and individuals, and just supporting kids. And then when you start seeing the needs as far as recreation programs, as far as spaces to play, how does this get divvied out to teams and organizations? So then you get to a community city level. And that's when my first, I would say, interactions with the city at the city government level began. We just started making requests. And either we weren't heard or the requests weren't given, and we didn't understand why. And I'm not a person who likes the word no. Don't know if you know that yet, but I don't. And so I didn't understand it because I saw other people getting it, having their request met. I saw other people receiving resources that our teams weren't. And so we began to pursue that path of how do we get the resources, how do we get the equity. At the time, we just said, let's make it fair. We didn't know the word equity and all of that then, but it was folks who didn't have a voice at the table weren't being heard and their needs weren't being met. And
right, so we often talk about every child with a thriving family, supported by a faithful community and an engaged church. You grew up in a thriving family, but your experience is that the community wasn't always faithful or equitable sometimes, right? And we know that all children need to have what we call 40 developmental assets, and some of those assets happen in community. Right? Particularly if family isn't thriving or isn't healthy. And we often maybe don't realize how important something like a Little League, right, a community sports thing, just because kids then are learning, right, sportsmanship, working together as a team, but they're also seeing the community involved in their life, and they're meeting adults and making connections that can sometimes result in social capital for a child
Correct.
who maybe doesn't have that in their family. So you started that right there on the ground level of where it mattered most. Where did it take you after that?
After that, it took me to places, even with my individual children, dealing with schools and seeing their experiences in schools. I would be the one to walk into school administration building and say, I don't think this is right. And so those experiences helped me understand the importance of systems and how systems work and who systems engage with and how they engage and how do people. I could walk through the front door. I wasn't afraid to learn how to and what to say and who to talk to and how to navigate that experience. Some people never did that. They were not comfortable. They didn't know how. And I often found the systems, if you will, overlooked those folks. Again, it was another experience of those who could not navigate but had a desire, needed something, and the system was not working well for them.
Yep. And communities have got to have strong, healthy schools in every community for every kid if this is going to happen, right?
And that's it. And every parent, folks who work with kids, I don't know a parent who doesn't have a child when they come out and they say, I love this child. I mean, there are some people who just don't want to be parents. And they know that from the beginning, early on, whatever their situation is. But the majority, the most, 99%, love their kids when they enter this world. And so they want the best for them. What happens is just life. Life happens. It takes families, individuals in different directions. The kids sometimes get that, I don't like that phrase, left behind, or people don't know how to support their kids. And we live in an ever-evolving world, changing world, and if folks don't know how to meet those changes and challenges head-on and they don't know how to navigate, then someone has to meet them where they are and help them get there.
Just a question before we go to a commercial break. What have you seen change in this city the most from your childhood to now that troubles you the most, and that if we could do something, that's what we should do?
Right. I think the idea of thriving families, we all know it's relationships, but it's also economics. And so poverty has hit this city like it has hit many other cities. And poverty and trauma seem to work together.
Absolutely.
And so I think in Lynchburg, and when my parents were here, there was a thriving workforce community because you had industries that hired folks out of high school. They did on-the-floor training, and people had long careers with them. So families built, they were able to build their economic opportunities. They were able to buy homes, live in neighborhoods. They moved from apartments into homes. They created the thriving, robust economy in Lynchburg, those major industries. And over the years, those industries left. So then you have people whose grandparents, great-grandparents worked for those industries. They were able to invest in the families, and the families, had homes left to them and that sort of thing. And then now we have industries that have changed, that are no longer here. And so people have to upskill. They have to reskill, retool themselves. And that message has to be driven into the younger generations. But more so, even now, upskilling is not enough. It's a constant, lifelong learning. And so without the economy, without the economics to support your family, the incomes, the resources, we see a continual cycle. I think if any of us forego our checks for months at a time, it's going to change and impact the direction and the longitude of a family and their future and what's happening on the ground with them. And so that's what we have to address.
If you don't have a good education, right, how do you upscale or change to keep up with the economy if the foundation isn't there?
Exactly.
Right? Wow. We've been talking with Trinae Tweety, Dr. Trinae Tweety, who's part of our staff. Let's take a quick break. Let's see what our latest commercial that the team's done for us.
What is that flyer for?
Coffee and Counseling is a new partnership by Hill City Donuts, Mission House Coffee, and Hope Academy for Counselor Excellence to help make counseling more accessible for people in Lynchburg.
At any of these 3 locations, you can start a punch card that can be punched with a minimum $5 purchase and redeemed at the one of your choosing. A filled punch card can be redeemed for a free non-bottled drink valued up to $7 at Mission House Coffee, 2 free donuts at Hill City Donuts, or a free counseling session at Hope Academy. Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a great day.
I think we need to go get some coffee and donuts after this, right?
Or counseling.
Or maybe that.
Maybe that too.
Yeah.
So one of the questions, and I think you started to answer this, but you and I have had lots of conversations about what is the one thing that you're doing aside, in your volunteer work now that, and we haven't mentioned the fact that you were on city council or mayor, but I think people probably know that. But when you're employed here at a job where you don't have a ton of responsibility, which is what you wanted to do, right? To do your job and not have to carry it.
I do have responsibility. See, she's tough.
Okay. You share why. Okay, we're gonna get real. Why would a former mayor, city council person want to give up and just work in a job where you're not supervising anybody and you're not in charge of a big program? Why would you do that? You were the director of LINCAG for a year, and now here you are, just our major gift officer.
Just our major gift officer. That's pretty important, but
That's pretty important.
It is, but why? I mean, from a person who's been in leadership for decades myself, why make that choice? And then I think it'll lead to my question that I just asked.
Okay. I think for me, it is that leaders should always take personal assessment, should always personally assess. And so coming out of several leadership roles over a number of years, probably for about 15 years of nonstop, constant, whether it was business related, career, political, public service, public servant, you just want to take a break and you want to assess where you are and what you do, what you've learned. And how do you want to make the intentional decision to go forward? And what does that mean? Do you help an organization? Do you provide knowledge to individuals? And how do you do that? There are no programs for former retired politicians that I know about. If you know one, tell me. That counseling we talked about, tell me. But there are none. So you have to personally know yourself and where are your future goals. And I am still a young leader, a young person, I consider myself. And so how do I want to use that knowledge, that experience to help navigate community, the folks that I've known all my life, the individuals that still need assistance? Where's the best role for that? And so, and I'm a lifelong learner. So even in my position at Patrick Henry, it affords me the opportunity to learn new skills, to learn some things that I didn't know. And so I appreciate you all for that. And that's how a former retired recovering politician.
Recovering politician, that's a good term for it.
Yes.
Well, we're honored that you would choose to plant yourself here for that season in your life. So there must have been something about this mission that spoke to you, right?
I think from one, I believe children deserve good homes, great families, good support, because as I said, I experienced that. And so the organizations that are helping do that, everyone has their path, their lane. And they concentrate on families in different ways. I just saw that at a child's most traumatic moments, Patrick Henry, its programs, it's about the child. It's about children. It's about kinship navigation. It's about the opportunity for camp. It's about care and connecting. And you all also have a mental health component. Mental health is so very important these days, and so having the resources to provide that for children and families so that it doesn't tear them apart. that doesn't help them in the future. And I saw that as being appealing for Patrick Henry.
So when we were doing our pre-recorded
Conversation.
yes, I was joking that Vision 30 has been your vision since the 1900s, which you loved. But I know that you're doing things in your spare time that are related to the same passion that you've always had about children and families. So what is it that you're dedicating your volunteer time to at this time?
At this time, it is for working with individuals. It's working with individuals. I know that, it might be an unpopular statement, but Lynchburg has about 200 nonprofit organizations plus. How many cities can say that?
Right.
And when you have that many, we should have no problems in this community, in this region. I'm being real.
Yeah.
We shouldn't. Everyone has a mission. Everyone has a focus. So I tend to look at the gaps. I tend to look at, are our numbers, our data improving? Is the poverty rate still going down? That was our, myself and a former mayor, that was our vision, that we wanted to decrease poverty, especially childhood poverty in our city, because it was high. It was at one point upward of 30%, 29-30%. And so that was our mission, to call a lot of people together to work on the issue. And I believe, and I'm being honest, that sometimes people love the mission and don't look at outcomes.
You're right.
And so we can love our mission. We can do everything so great and well. But if we're continuing to feed a problem without pushing or advancing people across the finish line, then that for me says we're solving this day problem today. But what about tomorrow? What about next generations? And so that's if I answered your question. That's,
So you're
I'm working individually
with people.
And families, because it is one person walking across the stage with a graduation certificate or that upskill. It is that one family that is staying in a home. Because you navigated, you showed them where the resources are, but you showed them how to use the exit door for the resources as well.
Perfect. Yeah, but that's what I've been saying all along, right? If we have enough people willing to do that with one or two families, if every family in Lynchburg that cared about this could make themselves go to uncomfortable places to meet with people who are in tough situations and walk with them, right? We would solve the problem. And it's down to 21%. Child poverty is at 21%.
Yes.
So you guys made a big impact. But
Which is still higher than the state's average and way higher than the national high.
Way too
Right?
high.
Yeah.
Way too
You mentioned mental health. That's probably also been one of those areas where you saw an increase, right? I don't know the data, but it seems to me that we're having a mental health crisis in our nation, and it's impacting every community. Some of that has to do with addictions, but a lot of it is not. And we're learning more and more about trauma, which is helping us do a better job if we can make sure the folks who need it have the access to it.
Correct.
And that's also a challenge for any community. And we have counseling centers all over the city. It's like nonprofits. But those clients have to have some resource that can pay for that.
Right.
And the poor have Medicaid, but not many counseling centers will accept Medicaid because they only pay half of what insurance would pay or what a private person would pay themselves. So we try to fill that gap. But it feels like we're just barely kind of scratching the surface.
It is. The need has grown. But again, we have a more recluse society, if you will. I was at an event recently, and almost every child and parent was in their phone. So communication is not the same. Talking things out is not the same. Expressing feelings is not the same. We went through the COVID period, so people were alone, and folks didn't have that social interaction. Our youth didn't have it. What was normal became not the norm, and so how are they rebounding from that? You mentioned drugs, which is one lane of choice for people, which is taking out our communities, and mental health is important. So I believe in its leadership. You don't have a healthy community if you don't have healthy residents. And so that's just, you have to put the resources and investment where needed. Hence, my important role here at Patrick Henry.
There you go. That's a nice tie into that.
Resources are needed. And to have the Hope Academy, to have the counseling opportunities, it means, we have to bring in and invest in our staff and folks, and our donors and those who believe in the mission help with that, because they are impacting families through their contributions, being a donor, being a lifetime donor. And I believe they feel better about having that connection. And so Patrick Henry allows them to do that.
I wonder if in the couple minutes we have remaining, maybe we could all share some of those ways, because it's the year end, right? Year end, and
Year end.
everybody knows that it's year end. For tax purposes, people give more at the year end, and we tend to tell people more at the year end. So maybe we can talk for a couple minutes about, you just mentioned the fact that we take Medicaid clients. We also have a fee assistance program.
Yes, we do.
And that is all donor supported.
Yep.
Right? And so somebody can provide this counseling to somebody who doesn't have it. What are some of the other things we could think of that if somebody gives a check, writes a check or gives online this December, what kind of things will they be doing with that money?
Well, as you mentioned, kinship navigation. So that's one way that we're supporting extended families who are taking children that they didn't give birth to, but now they're stepping in and filling a need. So that would support that program. Our Homes of Hope program, sending kids to camp. We give a lot of campership, right, scholarships to kids every year. That's got to come from somewhere. I think it's important just to remind everybody who may not know this, but our 3 financial principles are that we are truly charitable. We desire and work very hard to be truly charitable organization. We chase the mission and not the money, trusting that the money follows, and God has been faithful in that. Right? Second is we don't rely on government funding to do this. We really have to depend on churches and corporations and individuals to fill those gaps. And then last, right, all donations, 100% of those donations are supporting those services, and our staff are doing it. And the unique thing about the 3 of us around this table is no donated dollar pays for our salary, right? So you can raise money, you can
100%.
oversee programs, and donors are assured it's not paying for us because there have been faithful donors in the past who've left us estate gifts that have allowed us to have an endowment that pays for those things. So that's powerful, and that allows us to do things that other organizations can't, right? We can be very strategic about that.
The other piece we want to mention, and maybe Trina, you could do that, and then invite everybody to the 13th. Talk a little bit about Vision 30 as a collaborative, but how donor dollars are actually supporting that.
Because we are able to meet family needs through Vision 30 and working with staff and other organizations and our staff to implement the services that an individual family needs. And so people want to help, they just don't know how. And so when they are giving and donating toward us, they are actually helping with a direct service and or a direct need for families. And so that is why donations are so important. And we want all donations. We love all donations. We like donations that are directed toward a specific program. But just giving in general is a great way for the organization to place the dollars where they need to be. And when you see a need, you can appoint a staff member. You can work and partner with an agency to make sure that that need is met. And so that's why we appreciate the year-end giving, because who doesn't want to finish out the year with a bang?
Yes.
We all do.
So you have an event coming up where people can learn more.
Right.
Tell us about it.
Coffee Connect is an opportunity for, and I'm speaking to you, it's an opportunity for anyone in the community to come out and learn more about Patrick Henry Family Services. The next one is December 13th at 8 a.m., and it is at the Hope Academy. And so we invite you to come out. You can register. You can contact me at tweety@patrickhenry.org. I can send you the link, and we can get you registered in, whether it's an organization, individuals. We just want you to learn more about our mission and the work that's currently being done in this 60-year organization.
That's
it's
right.
not new. So we want you to know what we're doing today, because we're serving and we're giving to families and meeting needs.
And if you've not seen Hope Academy, you need to come down and see that, right?
It
It's
is.
on Court Street, but
Yes.
contact T. Tweety. I never thought about that, but what a cool email address, T. Tweety.
T. Tweety. You all gave me that. I didn't select
No.
it, but it's cool. I love it. I like it.
Any last words? By the way, you look lovely today, Claudia.
And I love it when you tell me that I look lovely every single time.
I mean it every single time.
Do I get to ask a question? I did think
We-
of a
you
question. Do we
didn't.
have time?
I think we're done, but let's hear the question and
let's
see
hear
how
the
good it
question.
is and if it's worth going
Well,
over.
the question was, how do you envision Patrick Henry becoming the North Star for Lynchburg in the work?
Wow.
We should probably do a part 2.
We should.
That's a
Ooh,
good idea.
okay.
We'll do a part 2 with you after we come up with a really good answer to that
Okay,
question.
all right. I just
And
want to
we can
get
flesh
in.
it out. No, I appreciate that. I've never heard it asked that way. How do we be the
like
North
that.
Star?
I like that.
Beautiful. All right. Hey, thanks for joining us today on Community Connection, and we'll see you next Thursday. God bless.
Nobody gets to choose their family. If a person is fortunate enough to be born into a healthy family, then life can be much like floating down a smooth, gentle river in the summertime. But an unhealthy family is like a dangerous river, filled with rocks, debris, and fast-moving water. This river swiftly leads to the steep waterfall of adulthood, tragically forming a new river of dysfunction. Even if you aren't born into an unhealthy river, there are many streams that cause a person to get there. But there is only one way to get out, and that is through a meaningful relationship. Across our region, there are many agencies, churches, and families who are devoted to helping children escape from unhealthy rivers. Some feel their role is to wade in and rescue children. They foster, adopt, or provide safe families. Others stand by the river and support the rescuers by providing what they need. Still, others are upstream and stand in the gap to keep children from ending up in the negative situations. At Patrick Henry Family Services, we see ourselves as having an additional role. We are running up and down the shores of the unhealthy river, screaming, "Can't you see the children in the water? You have to do something." Vision 30 is a 10-year initiative. By 2030, we envision a region where all children are safe in their own family, or with caregivers who are supported by a local faith community. So, where do you stand at the river? Are you upstream, keeping families together and strong by standing in the gap? Are you in the river, directly impacting children? Are you on the shore, providing support for the brave folks who have entered the river? Or are you just passing by without noticing? No matter who you are, come down to the river with us. Let us help you find your place. Not only will lives be changed, but you will never be the same.